Hello, hi everyone. I hope my voice is audible to you all. Okay, that's super cool. So let's get started with our today's live session. I guess okay, let's wait for a couple of more time. Let's wait for more people to join in. We'll start at 6:10. Okay, so in the meanwhile, the folks are joining in. I'll briefly give you all a walkthrough of um, what is this Android Study Jam series is going to be all about. So the plan is we'll go forward as multiple sessions, and the core idea is to build an app. So what kind of an app are we going to build? The first and the foremost question comes up. And yeah, the most importantly, why am I using this Google Docs? You should probably ask this in the first segment only, but okay, since no one asked, let's understand why. I'm very bad at type. I'm gonna make a bunch of typos today, but okay, don't worry. I guess we can all handle that. Tick. So let's assume कि you are in a company and have been tasked to build a product, right? So what you're gonna do? The first step for building any kind of software in general, as a general practice, what are you gonna do? Well, probably most probably the first step for any software would be a requirement analysis, right? So let's do that exactly over here. Tick. So what do we need? Like, what are we going to build? So if we analyze our requirements, so we need to build a chat application, right? So when you say a chat application, what all things do come to your mind? Okay, so if we talk about the features from an Android dev perspective, let's see that from an Android engineer perspective. So the first thing which you will think about is key, okay, how many, like, how are the users going to interact with each other? Will that be a one-to-one interaction, or will that be a group interaction? Well, for our case, let's be really simplistic with the approach. So okay, I say like my requirement is to build an app which can offer me a one-to-one interaction between users. Okay. When we say the interaction between users, what are we gonna like? How are they gonna interact? Like, for example, like we go with Facebook. User signs up on and creates a Facebook account, and after that sends a so-called friend request. So for that he uses an email, right? Are we going to use that? Or the scenario would be like on WhatsApp, you register with your phone number and then interact with users there. Okay, let's try to be a little creative. Not so creative either. It would be just a simple username. Let's not invade someone's privacy by asking their email, or like at least not on the first step. So what we're gonna build, okay, so interaction will happen uh, by the means of username. Okay, ठीक है, that's good enough. But okay, what sort of functionalities are we gonna add? Well, when we talk about the functionality which you're gonna add, it would be a very Plain basic, simple, one-to-one chat conversation. That's it. Now, whenever building an application, there has to be some level of architectural decisioning which needs to be taken. Okay. What is this? Well, okay. So let's see. When we talk about architecture, like we also correlate to okay, what things are going to be involved in the application, right? So what things are going to be involved? So if we say the interacting parties for this application would be the end users, right? But that is something from the user's perspective, right? But for an Android engineer, how are you gonna visualize it, like, right? And since we are okay, let's be clear, we are gonna follow an MVVM architecture pattern. I'm writing all of this right on the call so that you get so that you get a more perspective into how things are actually thought before being implemented. So I'm just taking the decisions on the fly. Okay, so I'll be making an MVVM architecture, like I'll be making an app which follows MVVM architecture pattern. Okay, makes sense. Well, how are you going to do that? What is an MVVM? Okay, so if we like from a 3000 from what do you say like 3000-kilometer bird's eye view, the MVVM architecture is nothing uh, like it's like just interaction between your views, your view models and the models. You can simply say that's an abstraction of your like core functionalities, right? Like you can say like view would be your screen, like the individual, like if you talk about a WhatsApp application, MVVM would somewhat look like hey, this is where I'm just clicking on this button, okay? And so that will act as your view. Like these are the things which are going to be the main key stakeholders, right? Okay, well, I still didn't get it. Can you like, can you show me something? Like this is something like too much text. I don't get it. Okay, take a look at this. What's this? That's the simplest version of MVVM, you can say. So the interaction between your activities and the view models and your repositories. This pattern combined is known as MVVM. When repository is there, you're going to be interacting with some data sources also. For this chat application, let's keep it just a simple remote data source, which would be a Firebase based backend. Okay, so Raghav, you thought to use Firebase. Okay, so that is one of the architectural decisions, right? So you need to document that as well. Okay, I'll be using what will be my backend based on Firebase. Okay, well, now comes the second question. Okay, how are we gonna handle the user's authentication? What all those things would be there? Okay, that is another question. Like, how are we gonna handle authentication? Well, that is also a question related with architecture. So, authentication by Firebase. Okay. Makes sense. What sort of authentication are you going to implement? Like everything is a sort of a rhetorical question. Like okay, you are gonna be using Firebase. Okay, that's an answer. Then you're gonna use the authenticating users with Firebase. Okay, that answers the question. Now, what sort of authentication are you gonna use? Again, the question rolls back. Are you going to use WhatsApp based authentication where you have a mobile number, you ask for an OTP, and then you log in the user, or are you going to use something else? Let's keep it to very simplistic, just your phone number, right? Phone number based auth would be a pretty straightforward. No, Raghav, I don't want to do this. Okay, you don't want to do this? Okay, you can try an email based login system. A pretty straightforward mechanism. Tick. Okay, so Raghav, should I implement all of this by scratch? Like all of this login layers and everything? You can try to build it by scratch, but I would say to abstract that away with Firebase UI. Okay, what is this Firebase UI? I don't know what that is. Okay, so let me take you there. Firebase UI are a set of bindings which is offered by open source community and of course by the Firebase team who have been maintaining this. So this is the Firebase UI Android repository. And what does this have? Well, as a brief, this repository has a basic CRUD structure. Like if you want to use the Firestore database, they have got the bindings for that. And well, why these bindings are necessary? We'll answer these questions shortly. In a simplest way, you can say like they reduce the amount of workload or burden which may be imposed on you. This way it becomes really easy for you to manage text stacks and migrate them as and when necessary. Okay, okay. So the implementation of Firebase UI auth, that's what we are going to take. Okay, so this is one of the decisions which we took. Let's add that into our documentation. Tick. So that's our another decision which we took right away. Now, now what we need to do is key we need to further check on what all the aspects which we have missed out. Okay. Raghav, you're saying we have missed out on something. I don't know what we have missed. Well, to be honest, we have missed a lot of things. The first of all, the decision. Where is the UI? Raghav, you're just basically talking to me and just showing me this document. I cannot make out anything out of it. Well, that does make a lot of sense, right? So what we are going to do? Let's open Figma. For those of you who don't know, it's a application. Okay. Oh, sorry, this link should not open. I need to open the base Figma. Yeah, this would be better. So let me log in with my email. Oh shit. Okay, just give me a second. I'll just take this out. I hope my screen is not visible there. Okay. Super awesome. So what we are gonna do here is key while we are making a simple app, like we'll draw some basic structure of the app right on Figma. Okay. So what would this Figma do for me? Well, it is one of the applications which let you design your UI, wireframe it, and basically get a bird's eye view of understanding of okay how this thing is gonna work. Well, how things are gonna work again, Raghav, you are not making any sense to all of this. Okay, okay. Let me show you what we are gonna build. Tick. That would be clear. I guess that should be a bit more clear to me, right? Okay, ठीक है. Let me show you how the things are gonna be. Well, this is also one of the steps which is gonna be necessary while you are working on any of your project. Tick. So let's say this is one of my applications. Tick. Raghav, what did you just do? Well, this is an application called Figma. What it helps me do is I can basically drag and drop things here or there, and I can build some static UI out of it. ठीक है. Okay, this makes a bit of sense. कि like what you're gonna do. Well, what if I don't want to start from the scratch? Okay, if you don't want to start from scratch, what you can do is you can basically go to Figma's community center. Okay, what does this community center have? Well, it has a bunch of template projects and lot of ideas. So we are making a chat app, right? Will it have it? Yes. You just have to type a chat app and it would bring you some beautiful looking apps. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, that's so cool, Okay, so let's open a random chat screen, okay? And we'll try to understand what would be in the keywords around it. Let's just take a look at this one, okay? So what this app has, like, let's just take a look at it. I'll just open it in the new tab and we'll briefly have a look over what features would be necessary. Okay, so in general, if we see our application is going to have a home screen and other fragments and activities. ठीक है, uh, that's pretty much okay with me. Can we start with the code part, like that you as said now, like talk is cheap, show me code. Yeah, that very well makes sense. That's what we are going to do, but before we start doing that, I'm going to try to address some of the architectural problems which we as Android developers face a lot. I'm giving this session with a perspective that you have some understanding of basic Android, and that's now when it's going to start. So the problems which you face with any of your Android projects, what would that be? Well, the number one problem, you have to write or manage view binding in each file, right? Okay, you have to create view models for each of your app fragments or activities, right? That's a problem. Okay, so we'll try to solve these problems with our architecture design. Check. What are we gonna do? We're gonna abstract out these things. Okay, Raghav, I still don't get what you are not making any sense. Okay, let me show. Assume this is your fragment, right? And each of your fragment creates another instance of your like binding classes, right? So what if we create something like a base fragment which would handle all of this logic for you, like create a binding for you, and then what you can do is you can basically extend from this fragment. Like for example, if you have a chat screen, so your chat screen fragment can extend that. ठीक है, that makes sense, but I'm still not clear on this. Okay, what you wanna add a view model to this? ठीक है, you create a base fragment which contains only binding. Okay, what is this binding? Let me paste a sticky note here. It will contain view binding abstraction. Check. Done. Okay. So your base fragment class, it will take care of your view binding abstraction. Okay. All good. Now I wanna add a so-called VM. Okay, you can add that. Just add that layer in between. And since your VM base fragment, like it can directly extend from base fragment, right? Why just create a VM again for this here when you can reuse it from here, right? Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to extend this. This is one of the approaches which you would follow in industry while representing your class diagrams. And of course, let's make them equal. There shouldn't be partiality. It's a bit more fact. Bye fit ho ja. Okay. Super awesome. I guess this line is a bit tilted, but let's. Yeah, it's a bit this side. Yeah, now it's perfect. Tick. So we have got a base fragment, then we have got a VM base fragment. In VM base fragment, what we are doing? We are first we abstracted the binding classes. Now what we're going to abstract the view models. So this one will contain view model abstraction logic. Okay. So okay, this makes things a bit more clear. Okay, this thing will contain abstraction notation over it. Okay. And finally, we will have our chat screen fragment, which will be chat screen, right? That's so weird, right? Okay, so are we gonna have only a chat screen? No, we're gonna have multiple screens, right? Yeah, but how are we gonna visualize that? Like, oh, how the flows are gonna be? How come I don't see it? Chicken, you don't see it? Well, you will see it eventually. How? How am I gonna see Raghav? I don't know. Okay, don't worry. We'll see that. Let's create our entire flow for it. Okay. Let's restore it to 100%. I'm gonna go off screen. Okay. So let me create a empty shape. And let me create our cheek. I guess my mirror board is visible, right? I just confirm. Okay, it's visible. Okay. Well, let's get back. This may sound a bit boring for some of you guys, but that is something which uh, needs to be done eventually. Okay, that's what makes you a better software engineer, because it's not always about writing clean code. It's always about your uh, okay. Uh, cheek. So let me reposition this here. So let's say we are gonna have our so-called login. Okay, let's just create a beautiful title for it. App flow. With the designing part, we'll get to it later. Let's first initially like make it a bit beautiful app flow. Okay. So how is our app gonna look like? So the entry point for our application, a splash screen, right? A splash screen is something which makes things a bit more intuitive, right? So let's keep that. And let's keep our text color white. Otherwise it looks a bit horrible. Yeah, I'm really bad on this. Cheek. So initially we have a splash screen, which will act as an entry point. Splash screen pay, you can have your like application logo or anything. I'm making this as a for a splash screen, but like I'm making this for a chat application, right? But you can basically scale it up to anything you want, right? So after this, you'll have your authentication flow, your auth activities, right? Well, this is exactly what we are going to implement in our next session. So this would set up the base for the next session, right? So auth activity will be here. Well, auth activity will have certain responsibilities, right? Yes, auth activity will have certain set of responsibilities. What will be those? First, your login, then you will sign up. Let me delete this one. This one looks better. Okay. So this will sub have your login flow and sign up flow. Tick. Make sense? Exactly. So your auth activity acts as an entry point into your authentication activity. After authentication activity, you basically go to login, sign up, or if you are already authenticated, in that case, what should happen? Right? That is also a scenario which needs to be handled. Let's move all of this a bit up. Let's take it up. Yeah, here it fits well. Okay. Let me just color code it to something like uh, okay, let's save this color. What is the code? Yeah, done. So authentication activity handles two aspects: your login flow and your sign up flow. Check. Once this is done, then you're gonna move to the next stage of the application, right? So and how are these implemented? Like ideally, you can go ahead and implement your login fragment and sign up fragments. But here we are gonna try to abstract this business logic into your so-called as Firebase UI. So entire of this business logic, since we don't want to handle all of this, so what we are gonna do is we're gonna abstract it away with business logic. Tick. Done. So Firebase UI will uh, take care of this. कि ठीक है, this entire business logic will be abstracted away. Next, once this is done, we will also have to onboard the user, right? Like as I mentioned, we want to provide a username to each and every user, right? So we're gonna have an onboarding flow for the users also, right? Okay, so what we do is we have a let's give a simple onboarding activity. What this activity would do is it would basically onboard your users onto the platform. Like by onboarding what aspects, let's document that as well. It will create and allot a username. It would not be just allot it would be allot a unique username to the individual user, right? Because that's okay, I guess it is a double L, right? Allotting a unique username to the signed up user. Tick. So once this is done, what we're gonna use, we can use a simple edit text. We'll get the input and we'll send it on the Firebase and check if it already exists in some of collections, or if not, then we can allocate it. The other way would be like create a document where you can have a list of all your user IDs, and you can basically check hey, if this user like a document with this username exists. If it exists, then don't allow. Something like that sort. Check. So that would again work for us. Check. Okay. Now let's take a look. Okay. Okay, I guess this is, let's move here. Once the onboarding is done, we are gonna, what we intend to do is we wanna show to the user key, okay, what screens would be visible to him. So let's call that screen as a chat activity. Again, we're gonna try to make the app as simple as possible, not adding some huge caveats. So that color looks really sharp. Uh, can I try something different? No, 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 no. I need some better colors. Cheek. I guess if this doesn't look good, then it doesn't look so bad like that. Let's keep these two rounded ones. Check. So once a user has successfully onboarded, that is, an account exists for the user. What we are gonna do is we're gonna jump him to the chat activity. When we are gonna do it, account ex- exists for the user. Okay, that's way high font, and that should be Arial. Check. So when an account exists for the user, moving forward to the chat activity. Check. And here when the account doesn't exist for him. Check. This way. This much flow is okay. Works good. Okay. Now this chat activity, how it's is this gonna work? Well, the chat activity would have what components? Generally, ideally, you wanna add user, right? You wanna uh, add your new friend with their username, or you wanna search someone by username, right? So, okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have a chat list fragment, like the friends which you already have. You really want to interact with them, right? They're buddies. So the friends which you already have, they're gonna be on a list called chat list fragment. Let's say कि okay, we have a chat list fragment, right, which will house your business logic so that you know कि, okay, what all friends have I have already interacted with. Tick. Those would be available in the chat list. When you click on an item, you can basically go to another screen, and what would that be? Well, that would be your chat fragment. Here you would basically interact with that user. ठीक है. Well, this is one of the flows which we want to support, but we also want to allow user to directly chat by the username, right? ठीक है. Let's allow that also. Check. Both of these flows are going to work for us. And when do we launch this flow? Tick. Okay, so this I guess further clarifies okay what we're gonna build. When initially we had this product documentation, it wasn't so clear. But when we started building things with the graphical UI, that was game changer. Was it or not? Okay, I guess okay, I just don't understand what you wanna say. I don't know what you say is that. Okay, so Okay, so till now, if anyone has any query up to this part, I guess it already covers most of the architecture design for this chat app. And does anyone have any query on this aspect? Up till now, like just curious on that. Okay, so let's move forward. Ah, well, how this chat fragment is gonna launch? Well, what will? Acha, let's. We missed one thing. What is the role of this chat fragment? Let's mark that. Tick. That's what you wanna achieve from here. Well, I'm not done for now. Also, what this chat list is doing? Display a list of users whom you have interacted with. Okay, make sense? ठीक है, that's good enough. And the chat activity, well, by default, tick. So by default, this chat activity would be showing a chat list, but however, in the user tabs, it would like directly jump over here. Like so, basically, the chat activity will be housing this chat list, and as soon as the user taps on this, it will jump to the chat fragment, right? But that's not the only way. You also want to add users, right? Yes, that's very essential because you want to search for your friends, you want to add a friend. So a CTA or what we call as click to action button. Here, okay, let's not add this. Let me undo. Let me add in the sticky note instead. You can basically add your friends with fab. Well, what is a fab button? The floating action bar, the plus button, the rounded plus button, which you see. Like most of you might already know it, but for those who don't, for Fab Android, I just this action button is referred to as Android's Fab. Okay, chicken. Let's get back here. Okay, so now the basic app flow is pretty much clear. I hope it's pretty clear. Ah, we missed one thing. Can you guess what? I'll just ask this question. Can someone guess what we missed? I'm still waiting. Like, can anyone guess it out? Ah, yeah, exactly. The profile screen. Yeah, that's exactly what we missed. Okay, so this diagram is actually incomplete. We also need to have a profile screen, right? How are you gonna basically interact with your users? Like, how are you gonna log out all of that functionality? You could basically have a bottom action button, but right, but you would prefer to have profile screen. Should you? Is that necessary? I don't think so. We can basically handle that logout with your chat activity URL. And but what if you want to change your username? In that scenario, it would become quite essential. So let's add a profile fragment. What this fragment is gonna do, it's simply gonna attach so-called as like it would ideally it would complete your behavior. And the last one here, your profile fragment. Tick. So I guess that pretty much wraps up your app flow. But when we come to the architectural abstraction, it is yet incomplete. Why? Let's take a look back at our base fragments. Let's color them up and make them look a bit more interesting. Uh, yeah, nah, 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 nah. ठीक है. Done. So this is your fragment based logic. Similar logic would come up for your activities, right? Because even you have multiple activities on your screen, right? So this into two. So it would become your base activity classes, and then it would form your VM base activity. Tick. But are we done on this? Like, is our app flow complete? If we take a look at our dependencies, we have got an auth screen, we are having, okay, so this much logic is abstracted away with the help of your Firebase UI, right? Tick. But the flow from here, it's dependent upon you, right? So how are you gonna handle all of this business logic? So you need something to handle that, right? Okay, so how are you gonna do that? Okay, let's handle that now. So this could be your flow specific architecture. Check. So I guess when you're interacting with your users, you wanna act at chat like user repository if we go with the MVVM pattern, right? And since every like all of the repositories, they would always extend a base repositories. Why we do that? So that if you want to have some common business logic across all your repositories, it could be abstracted away. Check. So we have our base repo, and the base repo would have a, what you say. Let me undo this. A base repo would have what? Well, subclasses, right? So like since we are interacting with user, so it would surely have a user repo. It would surely have, since we are interacting with chat related functionality, it would automatically have a chat repo, right? And what would all of these be? Well, All of these would be your interfaces. All of these are interfaces, right? Why an interface and why a base repo? Because we want to scale the system so that in future, if you want to implement DI or what we call as dependency injection into the system, we can easily use this very flow, right? Okay, so let's scramble our user repository. Well, how is the user repository going to look like? What functionalities or what methods will it have? Well, user repo, basic interface methods, create user, delete user, update user, right? This makes sense. Okay, this also brings me another question. What are going to be the data models, right? The current operations, create, read, update, delete, right? So if we speak in general, it will have an abstracted list of these methods: create user, update user, get user, and delete user, right? Yeah, that's exactly which something which all of these repositories need to have: create, get, update, and delete, right? Like for the chat repo, okay? Now if you talk about the if you talk about the user repo, now if you talk about the chat repo would have a similar set of message: send messages. What this would do is it would like take your message, send the username, like whom you want to send the message to, right? That's pretty much essential also. Like you don't want to have a message bloating anywhere, right? The chat repository, let's not get into the details. Set of abstract methods if we talk about for this: send message, get chat list, get chat messages. Again, get chat messages has to be a paginated call, otherwise it's gonna return a huge amount of data set, right? And you really don't wanna handle a huge list, do you? Right? So I guess this covers up a set of abstract implementations. Well, things which it still doesn't answer, like questions which are yet not answered even from this architecture, are: what are your data models? How are the data models going to interact? And that specific logic. Well, I forgot to connect these dots. Just give me a second. And yeah, this connects with this. Check. And yeah, that summarizes the base architecture pattern for the our base application. I guess I hope you guys enjoyed this, and like if you guys like had trouble understanding it, don't worry, it will slowly get into your nerves. And this is something like quite interesting, you can should try out. I'll share the link to this board right on the live stream chat. Just give me a second. Yeah, I've done. Okay, so if you guys have any further questions, feel free to like just ping me up. I would really love to answer it. Okay, I guess none of the questions. I hope next time we have bunch of more queries and a greater audience. Okay, so good evening all. Bye bye.